Episode 241, Battle of the Heirs. Logan and Corey were discussing the future of the Kingston family. The Battle of the Heirs was heating up. Logan hoped that the Kingstons would start putting their energy towards trying to inherit control of the family versus trying to kill Violet. Logan didn't mind the Kingstons competing for the inheritance fair and square. Violet, of course, had the strongest case, since her grandfather had named her as the heir in his will. No one else had a legitimate claim. But that hadn't, and wouldn't, stop the rest of the Kingstons from trying. Chloe just lost her child. With her current crazy state, perhaps she will transfer all her energy to her career versus plotting against Violet, Logan told Corey. After all, her man Lionel has already used the past 4 years to gain a firm foothold in the Kingston group. Miranda even promoted him after the engagement. Lionel had also grown his reputation outside of the Kingston group. He had led his own family's company, Lawson Group, back to prosperity. Logan had even heard rumors Lawson Group was about to go public. When Chloe and Lionel married, he would officially become part of the Kingston family. Lionel would be the power behind the throne. Whoever inherited the Kingston family would depend on Lionel's help. Logan believed that this was the moment that Lionel had been waiting for. He would want Chloe to inherit the Kingston family so that he could run it for his wife. His engagement to Chloe was not a love match, but a strategic one. In Logan's eyes, this was obvious, given the man's continued pursuit of Violet. Logan was very curious about Violet's attitude towards Lionel in the upcoming battle. I bet Lionel really regrets abandoning Violet now, Corey said with a smirk. Seems to me that he gambled on the wrong cousin and lost. Now he's stuck with the crazy one, and Violet's legitimate claim will be hard to deny, Corey added. Logan sighed, but he didn't have the slightest sympathy for Lionel. He only knew that Violet's position would continue to be precarious. Logan would need to hire more people to protect her. Of course, Logan's need to protect her was not because he liked Violet. At least, that's what he tried to tell himself. Corey was still speculating out loud, breaking into Logan's thoughts. So there's Chloe and Violet, but they are not the only heir contenders. You've got Charles, who's been exerting his authority more recently, much to Miranda's dismay. Miranda's only way to power is through Charles, and it seems obvious to me that he's now hoping his future son will inherit. And then finally you've got Elizabeth, Corey continued. Our investigators have said that she's been spending a lot of time with Garrett and Lionel recently. Who knows what they've been whispering in her ear? Elizabeth hasn't seemed power-hungry in the past, but given recent events, who knows? If any of Chloe's plots against Violet had succeeded, I don't think Elizabeth would have been crying. She seems pretty upset that you've rejected her. And you're not helping by sending her mixed signals by not cutting ties with her completely. The fact that you are escorting Elizabeth to the gala tonight is a great example. Are you questioning me? Logan scowled at his longtime aide. Logan decided Corey had learned all kinds of bad habits from Violet. The biggest problem was that he now dared to question Logan. In the past, Corey wouldn't have had the guts to do so. I'm telling you this for your own good. It's not good for Elizabeth's state of mind, and it's not good for Violet's. Does she know you're taking Elizabeth to the gala tonight? Corey was not afraid of Logan as he once was. Violet had always talked back, and Logan respected her more for it. Corey was starting to realize when Logan threatened to fire him, he was just spouting off. Like now, for instance. Logan glared at him. If you want to do something for my own good, then you will take care of all the work I don't feel like doing this week. Today's board meeting, for starters. I've decided I will not be attending. You will take full responsibility. Hey! Corey didn't want to deal with the old guard by himself. Or perhaps you'd like to look elsewhere for a new boss you can do good things for? Logan asked him with narrowed eyes. Okay, fine. Point taken. Corey huffed, but decided that maybe he couldn't get away with quite as much as Violet had. The boss was famous for having double standards. Plus, Violet was a lot prettier than Corey. Satisfied, Logan changed the subject. I want to send Priya to assist Violet. She starts working with Jay Fannin today, which means Garrett will be lurking around her. If my brother, or anyone else, does anything out of line, I want Priya to report it to me immediately, Logan ordered. Violet was excited to get back to work. She had enough leisure time. Violet wanted to spend her days being productive and useful, not resting and binging Netflix. While Violet was excited to be working again, she couldn't help the nerves she felt as Henry drove her to Jay Fannin's studio. Working for the music producer would be very different from working for Logan. As the presumptive heir of the Kingston Group, Violet had too many conflicts of interest to continue working at Smith Group. She just didn't know how Logan would get used to not having her around. Logan was the pickiest person. Even his coffee had to be made a certain way. When she'd first started as his secretary, Violet learned very quickly that if his coffee was not perfect, he wouldn't drink it. If the coffee was too hot, he wouldn't drink it. If it was not a dark roast, he wouldn't drink it. He wanted a mug, not a paper cup. The list went on and on. Violet's old boss at Hall Group had been exacting, but Logan took it to a whole new level. And then there was the fact that Logan was always impatient and usually grumpy. His tongue was famously acerbic. Violet would regularly see people run out of his office in tears. It was simply psychological torture. Violet thought Logan secretly enjoyed getting under people's skin. The more she'd stood up to him, the more they would argue. It was as if Logan had taken pleasure in pushing her buttons. When Violet thought of this, she laughed out loud. She actually felt that when she and Logan quarreled in the office every day, it was quite fun. Henry pulled up in front of Jay's studio. To Violet's surprise, Garrett was already waiting at the entrance of the building. When he saw their black Bentley drive up, he hurriedly came out to welcome it. When the car stopped, Garrett immediately opened the car door to help Violet out. He even used his hand to block her head, lest she bump it on the roof of the car. He was very attentive. Henry silently noted all of this as he'd been given strict instructions by Mr. Alexander. No matter how big or small, as long as it was related to Violet, Henry had to report it. Henry was a little worried as he watched Mr. Gardner fuss over Miss Kingston. Mr. Gardner was a handsome man, and Henry hoped this wouldn't lead to problems between his boss and his brother. Finally, I've waited for you. Garrett's dimple was showing on his cheek as he smiled broadly at Violet. His face looked similar to Logan's, but he looked more gentle and romantic. He was also careful and thoughtful, and obviously knew how to treat a woman. Even if Violet wanted to keep her distance from Garrett, she could not help but smile at this moment. Garrett turned to Henry. Thank you, sir, for delivering Miss Kingston safely to us. Please go home, rest, and relax. I will take care of her now. Garrett then led Violet quickly into the building. Henry never even had a chance to object. Jay's studio was located on the back lot of a major studio complex. The low building was modern with glass and straight lines. They entered a sunny reception area with floor-to-ceiling windows, with a view of the row of palm trees outside. Garrett nodded at the receptionist, who immediately handed Garrett a lanyard with Violet's security pass already attached. It would allow her to enter and exit the building. He had made it in advance, so she wouldn't have to wait. He swiped his own card and held the door for Violet to enter the studio. Garrett was attentive and thoughtful, and Violet knew that if Logan had been there, he would have been furious. Episode 242. Warm Welcome. When Violet arrived at Jay Fannin's recording studio for her first day of work, Garrett had met her and personally escorted her into the building. As they passed through the security door and entered the main studio, Jay Fannin spotted them and hurried over to say hello. Miss Kingston, you're finally here. I'm thrilled that this day has finally arrived. Jay greeted her enthusiastically, even leaning over to give Violet a pair of Hollywood-style air kisses on the cheek, which Violet was thankful Logan wasn't there to witness. Jay's enthusiasm was sincere. He believed he had discovered a star. Violet was the muse who had reinvigorated him creatively. He had impatiently been waiting to start recording with her. Both of you are too kind. Thank you for such a warm welcome. Violet's smile was genuine. She was still nervous, but Jay's obvious enthusiasm was putting her more at ease. Garrett has offered to show me around. I'd love a tour of the studio. Of course. I'll take you around personally and introduce you to everyone, Jay said, starting to lead them deeper into the studio building. Violet felt herself slip into work mode. She listened attentively as Jay showed her where things were, and she tried to memorize the names of everyone she met. Violet knew the more familiar she was with her new work environment, the easier it would be on her. After all, over the next year, she would be spending a lot of time here. Jay's studio was warm and inviting. There were plush velvet sofas and chairs scattered throughout the common workspaces. An eclectic mix of workers was huddled together working on laptops or tuning instruments. It seemed that only Jay had his own office. This was not like the Smith Group, where everyone had their assigned workspace. Garrett explained they used a hot desking model, where workers were free to work wherever they wanted each day. The dress code was also very casual, with many of the employees in jeans. The recording and sound booths were covered in thick padding and featured state-of-the-art equipment. Garrett told her that the equipment was regularly swapped out so that they were always working on the latest models. There were practice studios filled with every type of instrument and a kitchen area that featured snacks and drinks of every variety. Jay said they regularly brought in catering to feed the staff, especially in the middle of a recording session. Garrett and Jay seemed to be getting along very well. They were obviously not just business partners, but friends. The two of them talked easily, laughing and joking with one another. Everyone they introduced her to was friendly and easygoing. There didn't seem to be a strict hierarchy, with even assistants using Jay and Garrett's first names. The whole studio atmosphere was very relaxed. Violet sighed. This new job would definitely be very different from working for Logan at Smith Group. Jay Fannin was considered a musical genius. He was worth millions and had a slew of golden and platinum records, many of which were displayed on the studio's walls. Jay was so successful, with so many awards to his name, that he didn't need to work anymore. Now, he only produced music that inspired him. He followed his own heart, assuming the audience would like it if he did. He was usually right. Garrett spoke to Jay as he took care of Violet. He was very considerate and made Violet feel at ease. She found herself forgetting what she had promised Logan as she chatted with Garrett and asked him questions. Garrett and Violet had a lot in common, having both grown up in Los Angeles. Although the Kingston family hadn't socialized with the Gardners, their families had been aware of each other. There was a common ground between them that made things feel familiar and easy. After her tour, Violet found herself standing in the main lounge area, chatting freely with Garrett, Jay, and the other employees. They told her the best places to eat near the studio and the ones to avoid. Everyone was welcoming and friendly, and while Violet was still a little nervous, her manner was calm, gentle, and kind. Jay's staff was enchanted by her. Jay waved his hand and called a young woman with braids over to him. "Violet, this is Tate. I've asked her to be your assistant." "Oh, there's no need for that. I'm sure I can manage my workload alone. I don't want to take up anyone else's time or be a bother. I'm sure Tate must have more important things to do than assist me." Violet smiled shyly at the young woman and felt flustered. She was used to being an assistant, not having one. It made Violet a little bit uncomfortable to think of a stranger following her around and taking orders from her. Everyone smiled at Violet, trying to assure her that she could never be a bother. They were all thinking the same thing. It was no wonder that Violet was rumored to be in a relationship with Logan Alexander. Not only was she gorgeous, but she was so gracious and modest. Jay looked at Garrett, who was currently staring at Violet with intense interest, and the producer couldn't help but secretly laugh. Jay knew from first-hand experience that Garrett was a player. It was rare for him to leave a club after a night out without a number of women slipping him their number. Garrett was handsome and successful, and he was the center of attention wherever he went. The only one who could outshine him was his own brother, Logan. Jay had never seen Garrett take any woman too seriously. He certainly had never seen him look at a woman like Garrett was currently looking at Violet. His friend was clearly interested in her, and Garrett didn't seem to care that Violet was his brother's woman. The hungry look in Garrett's eyes said so plainly enough. Now that Jay thought about it, Garrett's interest in Violet could be a problem. Logan was an investor in their project, and he would be furious if Garrett hit on his woman. Jay had personally chosen Violet for the theme song. He believed she was the only singer that could do the song justice. He couldn't let Garrett's infatuation mess things up. His friend needed to restrain himself. Jay coughed lightly and raised his eyebrows meaningfully at Garrett. Jay told him, just with his eyes, that there are people watching. Jay then turned to speak to Violet. Of course, you must have an assistant, Violet. We want to make sure you have everything you need. Jay smiled at her. Starting tomorrow, we will begin your voice lessons, and you don't need to be distracted by mundane tasks. It will be inconvenient for you to keep your own schedule and answer calls without an assistant by your side. Even if it is for the progress of your work, assistants are still necessary. Garrett pulled his gaze from Violet and agreed with Jay. Since everyone seemed to think an assistant was necessary, Violet didn't object any further, turning to Tate and thanking her for her help. As they were talking, the exterior door buzzed. The receptionist poked his head into the lounge to inform Garrett that another car had arrived for Miss Kingston. There were members of the Smith group here to see her. Could it be Logan? Violet wondered, as her heart rate picked up. Had he come to see her? Garrett obviously thought it was Logan, too. Seeing the irritated expression on his friend's face, Jay warned him under his breath. Careful. Remember, your brother is an investor on the project. Garrett didn't reply to Jay, but just carefully wiped the annoyance off his face, replacing it with an easygoing smile. Garrett could see Violet was blushing at the thought of his brother, which made Garrett feel anything but easygoing. The Maybach stopped in front of the building, and Corey opened the driver's side door. It wasn't Logan that got out of the passenger seat, though, but Priya. Violet had still been thinking of Logan all morning, so she was a little disappointed it wasn't him. Still, she felt a flutter inside, as it seemed that Logan had been thinking of Violet as well. Why else would he have sent Corey and Priya here? Episode 243. Your assistant or mine? Corey and Priya had just arrived to see Violet at Jay's studio. Violet was surprised to see them, but secretly happy that Logan was thinking of her. They all made polite small talk for a few minutes, but it didn't take long for Corey to tell her why they'd come. Violet, Logan wanted to make sure that you had the help you needed. He assigned Priya to be your new assistant. Priya smiled at Violet and gave her a small wave. Jay laughed. You thought one assistant was too much, Violet, and now you've got two. Jay teased her, then continued. Actually, I was worried that one assistant might not be enough to help. I think this is perfect. Now you've got one assistant, hand-selected by Garrett, and one personally chosen by Logan. Everyone's happy. Welcome, Priya. This is Violet's other new assistant, Tate. Jay smiled as the two young women exchanged hellos. Violet hadn't even wanted one assistant, so she definitely didn't think she still needed two. Still, Violet knew she definitely couldn't reject either woman. If she chose Tate, Logan would be furious, thinking Violet had something to hide. And if she chose Priya, she would offend Garrett, who would think she was afraid to say no to Logan. Violet had no idea how they were going to have enough work to do, but she smiled and welcomed her new entourage. At least she'd never be lonely. She did ask Corey, "With Priya and I both now gone, how will you manage in the office?" What Violet was really asking, of course, was how Logan would manage. Corey smiled and said, "No worries, we've still got Drake. I've also put in a request for some extra help from the temp pool. It's easy to get extra help. What's not so easy is replacing you. But since there's only one Violet, the boss will manage." Corey knew Logan wouldn't be happy with any assistant that wasn't Violet, so it didn't really matter who Corey brought on. Corey didn't tell Violet that the Smith group had become less stable recently. She would just worry and insist on coming back to work to help Logan. Violet had too many conflicts of interest now, so returning wasn't even possible. She could best help Logan by being there for him after work. To that end, Corey told Violet, "Relax. Having two assistants is the best thing you can do for the boss. You will get your work done faster and be able to leave the studio on time. Logan will get to see you sooner, so he's the one who ultimately benefits. You're worth it." This was deliberately said for Garrett's benefit. It hadn't escaped Corey's notice that Garrett was there personally escorting Violet. "Well, I must be going. I need to get back to the office. I will not disturb you anymore. If you need anything, Violet, just contact me directly or ask Priya to do it." Violet thanked him, and Corey left. He knew Logan was waiting for a full report. Sure enough, as soon as he walked in, Logan called him into his office and had Corey shut the door. "Well?" Logan asked him impatiently, even though Corey hadn't even sat down yet. As Corey relayed what had happened and what he had observed, Logan's face grew darker. He knew he should have gone with Corey and Priya. He just hadn't expected Garrett to be there today. Obviously, his no-good brother was wasting no time trying to get closer to Violet. When Corey told him about the two assistants, Logan wondered if Tate was Garrett's spy, as Priya was Logan's. He scowled when Corey described how Garrett had seemed quite attentive to Violet's needs, that he was gentle and chivalrous with her. Corey didn't have to say aloud what they were both thinking, that Garrett was the complete opposite of Logan, who yelled and lectured. Logan didn't like it. When Corey had left, he said it appeared that Garrett had no intention of leaving to go back to his own office. Apparently, his brother had planted himself in Jay's studio for the day. Logan barked out his orders. "Call Priya and inform her to keep a close eye on Garrett. I want to know everything that man says to Violet and everything he does. And tell her that under no circumstances should Priya ever allow Garrett to be alone with Violet. My brother is very cunning. I don't trust him. Violet is too soft-hearted and innocent, so she likely thinks my brother's attention is just him being kind, and Garrett is anything but kind. He clearly wants something, and under no circumstances am I going to let him have Violet." Logan finished with a dark expression. Corey could only nod his head in agreement. Corey didn't think Logan's worries were unfounded or the rantings of a jealous lover. He agreed with Logan. Garrett was not to be trusted. He got up to go call Priya, leaving Logan alone. After Corey left, Logan sat silently fuming in his office for a long time. Henry had reported that Garrett had wanted him to leave, but that because he had done so in a very gracious manner, Violet had likely thought Garrett was just being considerate. His loyal driver had relayed how Garrett had practically sprinted out of the door to help Violet get out of the car. Henry said that Garrett seemed outwardly very likable and attentive. How could Violet avoid temptation? His own sister was obsessed with the man, after all, much to Logan's continued dismay. Garrett was an unrepentant ladies' man. The Lorry group was growing day by day, and their leader was becoming more and more popular. Garrett was interesting, always laughing, handsome, and rich. women loved him. Garrett's parents had doted on him, and growing up well-loved made him more approachable and lovable now. Unlike himself, Logan thought bitterly, who had built huge walls around his heart over the years, the result of growing up without love and affection, even though he secretly craved it. If Violet were to cheat on Logan pressed his eyebrows together and clenched his fists. No, he would not let that happen. He could not let that happen. Logan would never let history repeat itself and become his father. Why did Garrett have so much time on his hands to just hang out in the studio anyway? Didn't he have a company to run? Logan had never known him to be so attentive to a woman before. Thinking of his coldness towards Anna, in contrast to how Garrett's eyes would shine every time he saw Violet, Logan snorted coldly. His brother needed to be taught a lesson. Logan had already told Garrett not to touch what was his, and Violet was definitely Logan's woman. Unexpectedly, his brother still didn't give up. Logan drummed his fingers on his desk thinking. When the Lorry group was working with the Smith group, they kept making small movements. The Kingston's group was swaying in the middle. From shipping to real estate and venture capital, the Lorry group needed to get a share of the profits. However, the interests involved were complicated. Logan really couldn't do anything to Garrett at the moment business-wise. But, Logan sneered, no one would be able to control him if Garrett touched Violet. He sighed. Logan actually really wanted to go home early today. After all, it was Violet's first day at work. He wanted to see if she was okay, and then test her attitude towards Garrett. Logan didn't believe Garrett was sincere. Would Violet fall for his act? What if Violet chose Garrett over him? They were both rich, successful, and in good shape. Looks-wise, they were equals, seeing as they were brothers. Really, the only difference between them was their personalities. Would Violet be attracted to Garrett's charm and good humor? No one would call Logan charming or pleasant. In order to please a woman, Logan couldn't change who he was. But what if it meant losing Wait, what the hell was he thinking? Logan pulled his legs off his desk and sat up straighter. Why did Logan care so much what Violet thought of him? He'd never cared what anyone thought of him before. It couldn't mean that he liked Violet, that she was special. Could it? Episode 244. This one's yours. Logan sat up straighter in his chair. He couldn't believe that he cared so much about what Violet thought of him. He'd never given a second thought to pleasing anyone before. So why was he worrying about pleasing Violet now? He didn't even try to please his grandmother. Sure, he'd pacify grandmother to keep the peace. Like with Violet, he'd refused to give her up for Agnes, but he'd agreed to keep the women separated. He had always repaid his grandmother's care through his excellent work, but making Smith Group successful also selfishly benefited Logan. So what was making Logan have these thoughts about Violet? He must be going crazy. No, it must be because of Adam and Amy. Violet was the mother of his children, so of course he'd want to make her happy. Because of the twins, he had more tolerance and affection for Violet. Plus, they'd known each other for a long time. Logan and Violet had spent every day and many nights together for a while now. It was reasonable for him to be soft-hearted to her occasionally. Yes, that must be it. After thinking about it, Logan finally calmed down. After all, he had sworn that he would never follow his father's path. He would never love any woman to death. If Logan walked the same road, the only one who would get hurt in the end would be himself. While Logan was thinking about Violet in his office, Violet strolled around Jay's studio, familiarizing herself with her new workspace. After her tour, Jay and Garrett showed her to her dressing room, which is where she could go and relax between sessions. The interior decoration was all black, white, and gray. There was a yellow sofa and a snow-white carpet. There were floor-to-ceiling glass French doors leading outside to a balcony. "It's so beautiful," Violet said, as she opened the door and walked out onto the balcony. The balcony wasn't large, only big enough for a couple of people to come outside and get some air or look at the scenery. There was an abundance of green, flowering plants hanging from the wrought iron railings, and a wooden bench with several comfortable-looking yellow pillows on it. Next to it was a bistro table, just big enough for 2 or 3 people to sit together and have a cup of coffee while they shared ideas. Violet really liked the whole setup of her dressing room. She wished Logan was here to see it. Wait, why was she thinking of Logan? Why should she want to share things with him? Weren't they just contract lovers? Yet, when she'd seen her dressing room, the first person she'd want to share it with was him. Ugh, Violet couldn't think like this. She quickly threw Logan out of her mind. "Violet, I'm glad that you like it." Violet was thinking about Logan and had forgotten that Garrett and Jay were still with her. She just nodded her head and reiterated that she thought it was beautiful. Garrett was pleased. She was obviously very satisfied with her dressing room. He had seen to its renovation himself. Violet's eyes were shining, and her creamy skin looked magnificent with the sun shining on it. Her long black hair fell on both sides of her cheeks. When the wind blew on the balcony, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath, and then released it with a happy sigh. Garrett, watching her, tightened his jaw in response. His pupils dilated and his heart rate picked up. There was no denying his reaction to this woman. Violet was indeed very beautiful. Cough. Ahem. "Jay, didn't you say you have to meet with the musicians about the afternoon rehearsal?" Garrett asked him. "Go ahead and do your thing. I'll accompany Violet and answer any questions she has." "All right then, Violet, there is nothing much for you to do today other than settle in, walk around, get familiar with things. And I'll see you this afternoon for your first voice lesson. If you need anything, just let Garrett know or have one of your assistants come find me," Jay told her. Violet waved and thanked Jay from the outside of the balcony. Jay smiled and walked out, leaving her alone with Garrett. Garrett joined Violet on the balcony, taking a position beside her at the railing. They chatted, and Garrett pointed out where various things were on the studio lot. Violet was not vigilant at all, and didn't notice that Garrett was getting closer and closer. She even closed her eyes and took a deep breath again, probably smelling the flowers that cascaded off the balcony. The smell of the flowers wasn't causing Garrett to react, though, but the scent of this mature, yet still innocent woman. It was a combination of purity and seductiveness. Garrett felt his body heat up. Tate and Priya entered the room at that moment. They had a Keurig coffee machine and all the supplies needed on a small cart, which they pushed into the corner of the room. Tate poked her head out and asked how Violet and Garrett took their coffee. Garrett asked that their cups be brought outside so they could continue to enjoy the fresh air. After Tate prepared their coffees, she handed the mugs to Priya to take outside. When Priya walked out, she immediately frowned. Garrett was standing entirely too close to Violet. If it had been Violet and Logan, Priya would have found the alfresco setting lovely, but seeing as to how it was Garrett, she only wanted to kick him away. Priya wasn't happy. Men, they only thought of themselves and their own selfish needs. All of them were chasing Violet with no regard for the woman's reputation. Priya knew what the press was saying. Violet was unfairly being called a seductress and a gold digger. They had ruined her good reputation, which had created a lot of contradictions between Logan and Violet. Priya saw how the boss treated Violet. There was something between them, and they already had children together. Priya hoped that Violet and Logan could be together. Yet here was the boss's own brother clearly making a move on Violet. Priya knew of Garrett's player reputation. Violet had to stay away from him. Furthermore, Drake had told her the boss's sister Anna seemed to also have feelings for Garrett. Violet must not fall into a troublesome love triangle, or Would that be a love square, including Logan? Whatever. Priya just knew it wouldn't be good. Logan was the most eligible bachelor in Los Angeles, and she hadn't seen him look at another woman like he looked at Violet. Priya had to act. Violet, Garrett, come have some coffee. Priya originally had planned to serve the coffee outside as Garrett had requested, but now she didn't. They'd be alone on the balcony, and that was too ambiguous. Priya couldn't allow it. Priya had strict instructions from Logan to protect Violet and not let her be alone with Garrett. So that's what Priya would do. Garrett smiled. He felt that this assistant was very hostile to him. He shrugged his shoulders. It was clear this Priya was Logan's spy. He turned and asked Violet, "Shall we go in?" "Yes, all right," Violet replied. Her face was a little red from the cool breeze anyway. She rubbed her hands and followed Garrett inside. "Cold?" Garrett gently asked her. "No, I'm not cold. The wind was just a little chilly." The temperatures had been milder recently, with cooler days and nights, but it rarely was truly cold in LA. The milder temperatures reminded Violet that the children's birthdays were about to arrive. Both the twins and Logan shared the same winter birthday. Violet wanted to do something special for their first birthday together. Garrett felt very conflicted as he followed Violet back inside. Originally, he had intended only to use Violet to anger Logan. But the more Garrett was around Violet, the more he thought he might genuinely want her for himself. When they returned to the room and sat down, both Garrett and Priya reached for Violet's coffee at the same time. Lunging, Priya beat him to it as she grabbed Violet's cup and placed it in front of her. Violet was stunned for a moment. Then Priya handed the other cup Tate had prepared to Garrett. "Here, this one's yours. You take your coffee black while Violet's has sugar." Priya tilted her head and smiled innocently at Garrett. She didn't care what he thought of her. Priya answered only to Logan. "Okay, thank you." Garrett pursed his lips, clearly masking his displeasure. "I'm glad you cleared that up so Violet was given the correct cup. You are a member of the Smith group and more familiar with Violet. In the future, I will leave the chores to you. Both of you have to listen to Violet's instructions. Understand?" The last sentence was spoken to Tate, the other assistant, who quickly nodded at her head respectfully, not quite understanding what had just happened between her coworker and Garrett. But Garrett and Priya understood, and it was all they could do, not to glare at each other in dissatisfaction. Episode 245. Just a Friendly Dinner. Garrett and Violet enjoyed their coffee and continued to chat, all under the watchful eye of Priya. Garrett could tell Violet's assistant was also Logan's spy. After finishing their coffee, Garrett excused himself, saying he had to get back to the office. Priya let out a sigh of relief when he left. She had successfully chased off Violet's suitor. She focused on helping Violet. In the afternoon, she was to have her first singing lesson with Jay and the voice teacher. Priya had just settled into her seat at the back of the rehearsal room when Garrett appeared. He was back. Priya scowled. The man was really persistent. At that time, Jay had just introduced the voice teacher to Violet and was explaining the production process of the song. When Garrett came in, the teacher was praising Violet's talent. The teacher was complimenting Violet's voice, but Garrett wasn't thinking about how she sounded, but admiring the way Violet looked. Indeed, her talent was impressive, but the first thing any man would notice about Violet was how gorgeous she was. It would be impossible for a man not to fantasize about Violet after seeing her, and Garrett was no exception. But he felt that Violet's role was far more than that. Today, Lionel contacted him again. Their plan went very smoothly, and it had just been a day or two since Lionel had thoughts about Violet. The two of them hoped Violet might be able to give Logan a huge blow. He could test her out first. Violet was wearing a white sweater and a long white fitted skirt. The white sweater looked like a Smith Group luxury brand. The soft wool clung to her curves as it wrapped around Violet gently. Her slim figure and tiny waist were offset by curves in all the right places. She had a perfect hourglass figure. Violet was simply the dream lover of all men. No other woman could compare once you'd seen her. Her father, Richard Kingston, had been a famously handsome man. The only one who could outshine him was Dahlia Wynne, Violet's mother, who was also extraordinarily attractive. A famous socialite in Los Angeles, her figure and looks were without equal in her time. Unfortunately, the Wynne family declined and Dahlia passed away. The Wynnes returned to London after Dahlia married Richard and hadn't had much contact with Dahlia's in-laws in Los Angeles. Otherwise, Violet might not have been bullied by the Kingston family all these years. Violet had inherited her parents' good genes. Her face, her body, and everything else was exceptional. Garrett's eyes became more and more heated. Logan had always been like this. Lucky. Everything he had was the best, and Violet was no different. Garrett had always been the runner-up to his brother, but he hoped that would be changing soon. He'd received a call earlier from his grandma Sarah that he believed had given him a window of opportunity. Your mother will be back in a few days. She will probably visit Logan frequently. This is your chance. His grandmother had told him. Grandma's phone call was nothing more than urging him to quickly carry out his revenge plan. When their mother returned to Los Angeles, she would immediately start trying to set Logan up on blind dates. Logan would be distracted, and Garrett agreed that it was indeed a great opportunity for him. Garrett stared at Violet for a long time before he walked in. He invited Jay and the rest of the creative team to dinner, and also insisted that Violet join them. It can't be that you're afraid that Logan will get angry, right? Don't tell me your relationship is just that of employer and employee. And besides, you're not even his secretary anymore, Garrett told her with a smile when Violet rejected him. But I still live in Logan's home and help him manage some things, Violet said softly, with a bit of embarrassment. Why was she worrying about Logan? Wasn't she just there to satisfy Logan's desire that was getting stronger and stronger by day? When he returned home at night, Logan sometimes was so impatient he barely said anything to Violet before pulling her into his bedroom. He sometimes even forgot to eat dinner. So anxious was he to be alone with Violet. And the annoying part was, not only did Violet not mind, she was actually growing used to it. Violet's face was red, and she looked in a bit of a daze as she sorted these thoughts out in her mind. To be honest, Violet felt that she was also a little addicted to Logan now. She couldn't fault Logan for something that she herself also craved, and she couldn't ignore the fact that she had been thinking of him all day, constantly reminding herself to put Logan out of her mind. Maybe an evening away from each other would be good. Violet was feeling a bit overwhelmed, and decided dinner with friends might be just the thing to distract her from the constant thoughts of Logan. It was just a few hours. Therefore, she called Logan and said that she was going out to dinner to celebrate her first day with Jay and other members of the creative team, and wouldn't be home until later. Logan didn't say anything. He hung up the phone. Violet figured his silence meant he had approved it, so she agreed to Garrett's invitation. Let your two assistants go home early. We are all family here. There's nothing to worry about, Garrett told Violet. Priya was obviously unwilling. What would Logan say if she didn't go with Violet to dinner? She wondered. Wouldn't he be angry? In the end, though, Priya didn't have much of a choice, since Violet agreed with Garrett. Violet gently told her, It will be fine, Priya. It's just a friendly dinner with business associates. I called Logan and told him I'd be late. Go home. Enjoy leaving work early. It will give you more time to spend with Drake. Priya's eyes popped open wide at Violet's words. You know? When Violet smiled and nodded, Priya wanted to die of embarrassment. She was going to kill Drake. It had to have been him who told Violet they were seeing each other. Since Violet was insisting that she leave work early, Priya decided it would be the perfect opportunity to go find her boyfriend and yell at him for having a big mouth. Actually, Logan was not at all happy that Violet was going out with Jay and the others. It was only the first day of work and they were already socializing. What will happen in the future? However, since Logan had plans of his own this evening, he hadn't said anything. He just hung up. He didn't know why, but Logan was also a little afraid that Violet would ask what he was doing tonight. Maybe this way Logan could escort Elizabeth to the gala without having to explain anything to Violet. When Priya arrived at the Smith group, Drake and Corey were talking about something in Logan's office. Priya knocked on the door and entered. Logan was quite surprised to see her. He looked behind Priya but didn't see anyone. "Why are you back? Where's Violet?" Logan's tone was unfriendly, and Priya immediately became uneasy. She went to dinner with some people from the studio. She said she'd called you and then told me to leave early. She said it wasn't a big deal, just a friendly dinner." As Priya relayed this information to Logan, her voice grew softer as Logan's face darkened. By the end, she was practically whispering her response. Logan narrowed his eyes and, barely containing his anger, asked, "And where is this friendly dinner taking place?" Priya's face grew as pale as Logan's was dark. I don't know." This meant that Violet went alone, and Logan didn't even know where. At this moment, Logan was so angry that he was unable to speak. Corey, seeing this, quickly told Drake to take Priya and leave before the explosion hit. Corey didn't blame Priya. She was young and inexperienced. When Violet, her boss, told her to leave, she did. It wasn't always easy to know what Logan wanted. Priya stood frozen, trying not to cry. Drake leaped up and quickly pulled her out of the room. "Don't worry, I'll have Drake work with her. She's young and eager. She just didn't understand," Corey told Logan. Logan, still silently fuming, didn't answer. He just waved his hand dismissively, and Corey fled as well. This was exactly what Logan had feared. He had agreed to let her work for Lori Group, but he had not agreed to let her go out socializing. Was his brother with them? Logan made up his mind. He would escort Elizabeth to the gala, socialize with her to show his support one last time, and then as soon as possible, Logan would leave and have someone else take Elizabeth home. Then Logan would immediately call Violet to find out where she was and go pick her up. He would then take his woman home where she belonged, with him. Episode 246. Mistake. The gala was about to begin. Elizabeth had called several times, and Logan asked her to go directly to Tom's place to try on her dress. He'd be there shortly to pick her up. Elizabeth tried on a number of gowns before choosing a long yellow dress. The back dipped low, and the strapless neckline showed off her necklace to perfection. She chose a pair of Jimmy Choo stilettos and had her hair styled in big waves. She finished things off with smoky brows and red lipstick. Elizabeth thought she looked really good. When she held Logan's arm and walked into the gala, many heads swiveled in their direction. And not necessarily because they were an attractive couple. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Shameless. I don't want her anymore, but I'm still clinging to her. I see, she's still clinging on. What's the point of that? Get some respect, girl. He doesn't want you anymore. What's she doing here? Given what happened, you would think she'd be at home caring for her crazy sister. Instead, she's out fooling around, just like her father. Elizabeth knew people were gossiping about her, but she didn't care. She was still the woman who could hold Logan's arm. No matter how powerful the gossip, could they talk to Logan? In their dreams. Elizabeth raised her head even higher. She had thought about it. Since Violet had the right to inherit, and Chloe was going for it, then why couldn't Elizabeth be the one to inherit as well? They were all Kenneth's granddaughters. They were equals. She knew Chloe had Lionel's help. Elizabeth felt that as long as she maintained good relationships with Lionel and Garrett, she would also have people helping her. Plus, she had a good enough relationship with Logan that he'd come with her tonight. If she fought with Violet for the right of inheritance, even if Logan didn't help her, she didn't think he would go against her either. Elizabeth was in a good mood. She entered the ballroom and sat down at their table as she greeted everyone. She stuck close to Logan's side. Elizabeth knew that when she was with Logan, her status was immediately elevated. A few fellow female celebrities who she didn't get along with secretly whispered behind her back and called her names, but she ignored them. "Logan, I know you hate events like this. You came today because of me. I owe you another favor," Elizabeth told him with a coy smile. Logan curled the corner of his mouth, but didn't say a word. The people around them were unhappy to be seated near Elizabeth. Logan felt that she was fortunate that he protected her. Otherwise, how could she continue to live like this? It seemed that the problems in the Kingston family should have nothing to do with Elizabeth. She didn't seem like the scheming sort. He was more tolerant of Elizabeth. However, Logan was still in a bad mood. He wanted to know what Violet was doing right now. Who was she talking with? Who sat next to her? Were they sitting too close? His face was cold as ice, but he still dutifully sat beside Elizabeth, accepting the flattery from those who approached him. It was cool in the ballroom, despite the crowd. Elizabeth was a bit cold in her skimpy dress, but Logan's attention was not on her. He didn't even notice. The scene of him gentlemanly placing his coat over his female companion's shoulders was even more impossible. Elizabeth could only smile and greet the other celebrity guests. Oh, and Philly, who was also there. Logan was naturally surrounded by a group of industry heavyweights who flattered him because they wanted to pitch him future projects. Elizabeth hoped some of them would convince Logan to invest in projects she could star in. On the surface, Elizabeth looked very popular, but in fact, she rarely worked unless the project was tied to Logan somehow. She wasn't a great talent, and she had offended many people in the industry with her diva behavior. Logan gave Elizabeth $30,000 per month. Plus, he'd given her all kinds of gifts. In fact, most people wouldn't be able to spend all the money she had received from Logan in one lifetime. But ever since she came into contact with Philly, her spending was like flowing water. Elizabeth needed Logan's wallet as much as she needed his prestige. Logan didn't care about any of this. He couldn't even remember what he'd given her since Corey had arranged it. But he knew he had only ever given Elizabeth money and gifts. He'd never cared about her well-being, like he did Violet's. "If you are interested in having Smith Group investment, contact Corey. He vets all my projects. If he thinks it's a solid investment, he will bring it to my attention." Logan wasn't interested in talking business tonight. Better they call Corey and pester him. Logan's mind was on Violet in a restaurant somewhere in LA without him. Logan's face was handsome and cold. He was tall and well-built, as well as rich and powerful. Elizabeth was not the only woman in the room that noticed. Elizabeth glared at Cheryl Wong, an A-list movie actress, who was also seated at their table. Cheryl's face was flushed red, and her eyes were sparkling as she gazed up at Logan, who was sitting on the other side of him. Elizabeth knew that she was flirting with Logan. Cheryl didn't even seem to care that Elizabeth was sitting right there. Instead, she batted her eyelashes and placed her hand on Logan's arm as they spoke. Elizabeth looked at Logan again. He really was the most handsome man, with his strong jaw and amber eyes. His shoulders were broad and his legs long. Elizabeth noticed Logan's hand drumming his fingers on the table. His hands were large, and his fingers slightly calloused. She wondered what those hands would feel like Wait, What was she thinking? Elizabeth shivered and shifted in her chair uncomfortably. Her entire body was heating up. What was going on? She hadn't even drunk anything, yet she felt lightheaded. Again and again she felt she couldn't stop her desire for Logan. She glared fiercely at Cheryl Wong. What kind of trash was trying to get with her man? Philly was watching Elizabeth closely. She saw Elizabeth fanning herself and smiled knowingly. Philly twirled the wine glass in her hand and had a confident look on her face as she rose and walked over to Logan and Elizabeth's table. Logan obviously didn't like this kind of occasion, and he didn't seem to notice any of the women flirting with him. He sat at the table with a few executives, and Elizabeth sat beside him. Philly smiled as she stopped at their table. "Logan, so nice to see you again. You are all our Elizabeth ever talks about. It was so wonderful for you to escort her tonight. I know you are only here because of how special Elizabeth is to you. I always say that you are cold on the surface and warm on the inside." Philly smiled, although Logan said nothing. He just looked up at her impatiently. "I wanted to propose a toast to you and Elizabeth." Logan looked at Philly coldly, and when she reached down, he immediately covered the wine glass with his hand. It was very obvious that he refused. Logan was angry at Philly, frustrated with Elizabeth, and worried about Violet. He was kicking himself for agreeing to escort Elizabeth to the gala. It had been a mistake coming here tonight. A mistake Logan somehow knew that was going to haunt him. Episode 247. Breaking News. Logan was quite angry with this woman, Philly. Why did Elizabeth's friend think she could speak so boldly to him? Plus, she spoke as if he and Elizabeth were a couple, when Logan had made it clear to Elizabeth that they were not. What lies had Elizabeth been telling this friend of hers? Whatever they were, Logan was in no mood to toast to anything with Philly or anyone else. Philly's perfume was bold. The closer she got, the stronger she smelled, and not in a good way. Logan frowned and quietly moved to the side. Logan didn't say anything to Philly, but Elizabeth smiled nervously and said to her, "Philly, why are you saying these things? You will embarrass us. Perhaps you've had too much wine, darling?" Elizabeth laughed slightly, trying to hide her unease. The executives and investors gathered around their table suggested a drinking game to liven up the gala. While Logan was familiar with these people, he had no desire to socialize with them beyond polite conversation. He had not indulged in such childish games in college with his friends, and he had no desire to play them now with a group of strangers. Logan became even more impatient. He should not have come tonight. These investors were obviously trying to curry favor with Logan, but he had no interest in becoming better friends with them. The group ordered another round of drinks, and Logan sighed internally. Maybe it was better to just talk about work. That's why they wanted to socialize with Logan after all, to get him to invest in their projects. The couple across from him began to pitch their latest venture, and Logan quietly listened. Out of the corner of his eye, he watched Philly and Elizabeth, who seemed to be arguing. "Could be interesting. My assistant, Corey, didn't come with me tonight. If you have any good projects, you can contact him directly. You can call him or have a meeting with him at the company," Logan told them, even though his patience was running out. Although Logan's voice was cold, his tone remained polite. He answered Elizabeth when she spoke to him and gave her attention over others in the industry, which would boost her status. Everyone in the room knew who Elizabeth was, of course. She was a third-rate actress, but came from a high society family. She had offended many people in the industry, but her family name and her ties to Logan had protected her. Elizabeth owed her career to Logan, and he had helped her avoid a lot of trouble. After all, if someone crossed her, they would have to see if they could bear the revenge of both the Kingston family and Logan. Now things were muddled, and people didn't quite know what to think of Elizabeth. The Kingston name was now more infamous than famous, and Logan had refused to marry her. Logan had seemingly moved on and was rumored to be in a relationship with her cousin Violet Kingston. But yet, Logan had accompanied Elizabeth to the gala. Didn't this mean that the two of them still had some sort of relationship? Or maybe they had broken things off but now had gotten back together? And where did that leave Violet, the mother of Logan's two children? The whispers raced around the ballroom, and soon the news had spread beyond its walls. Logan and Elizabeth attending the gala had set off a fresh wave of gossip in Los Angeles' entertainment industry, with the media rushing to report every detail. Breaking news: Logan Alexander attends benefit gala with his ex-girlfriend. Has he dumped the mother of his children? Exclusive photos. See Logan Alexander and Elizabeth Kingston walk the red carpet at tonight's charity gala, arm in arm. Violet Kingston is a no-show. Back on? Are Logan and Elizabeth once again a couple? Is Elizabeth set to become stepmom to Violet's children? Haley was quite busy these days. She knew Noah was even busier. He was preparing the motions and evidence for Violet's first day in court. The first hearing in her case against the Kingstons was scheduled for next week. As long as it went smoothly, Noah could slowly take back the shares controlled by Miranda and the rest of the Kingstons. Violet would finally be able to assume her rightful place as head of the Kingston group. Haley had invited Noah to dinner so they could catch up. She'd texted Violet, asking if she had wanted to join them, but Violet had texted back that she already had dinner plans. Haley assumed her friend was with Logan, so didn't think much of it when Violet said she couldn't make it. Haley arrived before Noah at the restaurant, so she pulled out her phone to read the news until he arrived. She clicked on the homepage of a top entertainment site, and there it was, a picture of Logan and Elizabeth attending some gala together. What? Was Logan for real? Haley was furious. What was the matter with this man? Violet had given birth to his children and was supposedly in a relationship with him, but here he was, hooking up with Elizabeth. Haley quickly opened up her social media accounts. Unbeknownst to Violet, Haley had social media accounts she had opened up anonymously to defend her friend online. People were calling Violet the other woman, etc. Haley quickly began typing. No one was going to talk about Violet like that and get away with it. She quickly wrote a post saying that it was not Violet, it was Elizabeth who was the other woman in reality. Elizabeth clearly knew that Logan and Violet already had children together, but she still refused to let go. She called Elizabeth shameless and desperate, and then hit enter. Haley was so sick of these internet trolls and their vicious ways. News about the so-called love triangle of Logan, Violet, and Elizabeth always made social media explode, with venom directed at all sides. Even the announcement that Adam and Amy were Logan's children had led to people accusing Violet of scheming. They claimed Violet had tricked Logan into getting her pregnant 4 years ago, so she could one day become the wife of the Smith Group's CEO. Haley really wanted to hire a huge PR firm to help Violet with crisis management. Lately, though, it seemed that the Alexander family might be helping in this regard. Even though they didn't like Violet, they would do their best to protect Violet's reputation for the sake of the children. Of course, Logan taking Elizabeth out was not going to help. Haley used her account to patrol and attack anyone who said anything bad about Violet. Using her username, Violet Kingston is my queen, Haley furiously posted comments letting everyone know that Violet had loyal followers watching her back. Of course, as she furiously tapped away on her phone, Haley couldn't help muttering under her breath that this was all Logan's fault. What had he been thinking? At the gala, Philly was chatting away, even though Logan wasn't listening. It seemed like the woman liked to hear the sound of her own voice. Sometimes she would talk about the latest gossip, and sometimes she would talk about Elizabeth and Logan. Logan was just tuning her out. Elizabeth quietly sat beside him, her body leaning a little closer to him than necessary, he thought. Logan took off his coat in the room and gave it to the waiter to hang up. He only wore a black shirt. Elizabeth caught a whiff of Logan's masculine scent and felt her skin heat up. She just couldn't seem to contain her desire tonight. The tip of her nose was filled with the masculine scent of the man beside her. Elizabeth wanted to fall into Logan's arms and let him do whatever he wanted. Unfortunately, he was completely uninterested. She really wished she could make Logan lose control of his desire and indulge in it. Elizabeth felt a little melancholy. In the past, Logan had still largely ignored her, but she'd been fine. Logan bought her gifts and sometimes even took her out for a meal. Elizabeth always figured if she was patient, Logan would eventually come around. But then Violet came back to LA and ruined everything. Now it seemed Logan really wanted to cut off all relations with her. He'd even told Elizabeth that tonight was the last time he would escort her. Tonight might really be Elizabeth's last chance to make something happen with Logan. And she wasn't going down without a fight. She had a plan, one Philly would now set in motion. Philly saw Elizabeth giving her a look, so she quickly turned to Logan and said, "Logan, Elizabeth and I have booked a private room upstairs to continue the celebration. You must escort Elizabeth and join us. It won't be the same without you." As Philly extended her invitation, a scowl grew on Logan's face. He didn't answer right away, and Elizabeth panicked inside. What if he said no? Say yes, please, say yes. Elizabeth held her breath as Logan opened his mouth to reply. Episode 248. Careless. Logan frowned and looked at Philly unhappily. The last thing he felt like doing was prolonging this event by joining Philly, Elizabeth, and a bunch of strangers upstairs for an after party. He wanted to leave, but he didn't know if Violet had finished with her dinner yet. Logan had come tonight out of obligation, and he'd felt uncomfortable all evening. His mind was filled with Violet. Recently, he didn't know why, but he thought of that woman all the time. If she wasn't by his side, he became more and more irritated. Logan also felt that there was something wrong with him today. Usually he was a master of control, but at this moment, his desire had surged, and he urgently needed to vent it. He needed Violet. Logan just wanted to go home. Elizabeth saw that Logan was being polite but distant, and was very anxious. She felt that tonight might be her last chance to make something happen with Logan. She had enlisted Philly's help. They had a plan. But first, Logan needed to agree to join them in a suite for an after party. Elizabeth and I have booked a private room and invited everyone upstairs to continue the celebration. You must come with us. Elizabeth will be so disappointed if you don't. It's still early. There's no need to rush off, Philly told him. In response, Logan frowned. He had hoped that he could make his excuses and leave soon. He'd come, escorted Elizabeth as promised, and now he just wanted to get Violet and go home. After a long pause, he excused himself to go to the men's room without replying. Elizabeth was nervous, but Philly was confident that when Logan returned, he would agree to stay. Philly had a plan, and she asked the waiter to bring their table coffee service with their dessert. At the small smile on her friend's face, Elizabeth heaved a sigh of relief. After all, this was her last chance to pin Logan down. Tonight, watching the attitude of these big shots in the entertainment industry towards Logan, Elizabeth was reminded how much she didn't want to lose their connection. Garrett's side was making moves, but there were no guarantees. She could not leave Logan behind and could not miss this opportunity. When Logan went to the men's room, it was so he could call Violet. He asked Violet if her dinner was over and what restaurant she was at. Logan wanted to pick her up when he left. It's still early. Our entrees were just served. I'll be a while longer. Where are you? Violet asked him. Her sweet voice seemed to hit Logan's heart. He suddenly didn't want to tell Violet that he and Elizabeth had come to the gala. He just said that he had a work function, then quickly added, "Go eat, we'll talk later." And then Logan hung up the phone. He tried to ignore the guilt and convince himself by not telling Violet he was saving both of them a lot of trouble. Escorting Elizabeth meant nothing to him, so why make it into something that could cause an argument? After washing his hands and returning to the hotel ballroom, a few executives urged Logan to say a few words. Logan had time to kill since Violet wasn't done yet, so he tried to relax and pass the time. He picked up the cup of coffee that had arrived while he was in the restroom. As he sipped his coffee, he felt himself relaxing, and even offered to buy the next round of drinks. These people were potential investors, so he decided he shouldn't be rude, even though he himself was not drinking. Elizabeth was happy that Logan had agreed to stay. Her smile became sweeter and more enthusiastic. Seeing the jealous gazes around her, Elizabeth was quite pleased with herself. She was like a proud peacock beside Logan. He didn't even look at the other actresses, but only spoke to her. In fact, Logan had not even taken notice of the other female celebrities in attendance. Elizabeth really needn't be so smug. It was not that Logan didn't like her. It was just that he was not interested in her, or random hookups. Otherwise, he could have had countless female companions over the years. When the gala wrapped up, Logan went to the private room with Elizabeth and the others. Elizabeth flitted around like a butterfly. She was afraid that Logan would ignore her. Logan understood her and felt he shouldn't be rude. Therefore, for the first time ever, they had a long talk. Logan drank some wine and promised Elizabeth he would always look out for her. As they spoke, though, Logan started to feel like something wasn't right. His head was starting to hurt. He excused himself from Elizabeth, but when he stood up, he felt a wave of dizziness wash over him, and he caught onto the back of the sofa to steady himself. He could hear Elizabeth asking if he was all right, but when he went to answer, it seemed like there were now 5 Elizabeths talking to him, and he couldn't understand anything any of them were saying. Their voices sounded as if Logan was underwater. Could it be that the wine was not right? Was someone scheming against him? But before Logan could get answers to his questions, everything went black. Logan didn't know how much time had passed when he woke up. His eyes were closed, but he knew he wasn't home in his own bed. Instead, he was lying on the bed in the now silent hotel room. Logan knew immediately it was bad. He took a deep breath and suppressed the violence surging through him. He kept his eyes closed and rubbed his throbbing temples. Logan tried to comfort himself. Even if he opened his eyes and saw Elizabeth sleeping beside him, he wouldn't get angry. The most important thing was to solve the problem. He knew Elizabeth still wanted him and what she was trying to do, but it didn't mean that he had to accept it. Even if he slept with her, it didn't mean that he, Logan, would be responsible for her. He had already made it clear to Elizabeth that he wouldn't marry her, and that their relationship, such as it was now over. She had to let go. Logan could only make her disappear from his sight from now on. He had been careless today. That filly definitely had a hand in whatever this was. He wondered if Elizabeth had acted alone, or if someone had ordered her to do this. Logan thought that anything was possible right now. Miranda, Lionel, Garrett, any of them would have reason to do this. If it was Lionel or Garrett's orders, they would be trying to make trouble for his family and the Smith group. At the same time, they would know this would cause problems in Logan's relationship with Violet. Logan felt a twinge inside when he thought of Violet. He had promised her he wouldn't touch anyone else for the length of their contract. Otherwise, their agreement would be terminated. He needed to get rid of Elizabeth. He would get Corey to send Elizabeth away, no matter what he used, money or threats. Logan just didn't want to have to try and explain this to Violet. He must not let her know. He kept his eyes closed and suppressed the bloodthirsty desire in his heart a moment longer. If he opened his eyes and found that there was a woman beside him, he didn't know what he would do. He didn't want to experience what happened 4 years ago again. At that time, Violet was framed. This time, though, Logan knew that whoever had planned this, it had been premeditated. He opened his eyes. The bedside lamp was on. Logan looked to the side with a cold face. there was no one there. This was strange. What kind of trick was being played on him? Could it be that he had become ill and Elizabeth or someone else had kindly helped him to lie down in the hotel room? Could it be that nothing actually happened? He sat up on the side of the bed. Logan's clothes had been removed, but he couldn't tell if he'd had sex or not. He paused for a moment, and then put on his clothes. As Logan pulled on his shirt, he noticed that next to his wallet and keys on the nightstand was a note. Logan picked it up, dreading what it was going to say. Episode 249. Overheard. Logan had been careless. He'd escorted Elizabeth to tonight's gala and then joined her in an upstairs suite for an after-party. Logan thought he was helping her out one last time, but it had been a trick. Someone had spiked his drink, and the next thing he knew, he was waking up naked and alone in a hotel suite. Logan knew Elizabeth had plotted against him, but he was surprised not to see her when he woke up. Then he'd found the note she'd left. "Don't think too much. Nothing happened. I will take responsibility for everything. Philly will also help us keep it a secret." Logan's facial expression darkened after he finished reading the note. What did this mean? The note seemed to explain why he'd slept in the hotel bed, but after reading it several times, Logan realized it didn't really say anything. Did he sleep with Elizabeth? What secret was Philly going to help them keep? What exactly did he do? What did Elizabeth do? He could not tell from this note. It seemed to Logan like Elizabeth was deliberately trying to be vague. It appeared like she wanted to tell him, but also cover it up. Did she want Logan to have to contact her to ask what had happened? His face grew cold. He hated this kind of deceitful behavior. He would not ask Elizabeth. He would not give her the satisfaction. Logan would have to think of another way to find out exactly what had happened. Fortunately, Logan didn't see Elizabeth when he woke up. But that didn't mean this was over. He had clearly told her that they had no future. Logan told Elizabeth tonight was the last time he would help her. If she still stubbornly clung to him after tonight, then he would have no choice but to be more cold-blooded and heartless. But in this situation, what should he do? Logan couldn't believe that Elizabeth didn't want anything, but had slept with him. That just didn't seem like Elizabeth's way of doing things. She clearly had a motive for what she had done. When did Elizabeth become so loose? Or was she led astray by Philly? The thing was, Logan couldn't tell if he had sex or not. Maybe nothing happened. Or maybe Elizabeth just wanted him to think something happened. Logan didn't have answers to his questions, but he knew he had to get out of this room. He thought of going to the restaurant on the second floor to see if the people at the gala were still there. He'd only been upstairs a couple of hours. He wanted to see if Philly and Elizabeth were with them. Perhaps he could get some answers. There was no one in the corridor. He took the elevator and went down. Logan looked calm, although he was furious and confused on the inside. When he walked out of the elevator with his hands in his pockets, he seemed like his normal, coldly arrogant self. He was about to round the corner and head to the restaurant when he heard the voices of a man and a woman. "Violet, please forgive me. I love you. Couldn't you tell when I saved you in the hospital? I've had enough of that, Chloe." Violet? And that was clearly Lionel speaking. What were Lionel and Violet doing here? And why were they together? Logan slowed his footsteps. He wanted to hear what Violet's response would be. "I don't know what you came here for tonight, but I already made it clear last time. I don't like you anymore." Violet sounded exasperated. "You're lying to me. It's impossible that you no longer have feelings for me. I'm your first love. We grew up together." Lionel's voice was filled with excitement and expectation. "I'm sorry about the past. I was deceived by Chloe. Violet, we can start over. he pleaded. No, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Let go of me. Lionel must have grabbed her because Violet was rejecting him. Logan frowned and started to go to her defense when Lionel spoke again, and Logan paused. It's because of Logan, isn't it? What is the relationship between you two? Don't you see that you have no future with that man? The Alexander family will never accept you. Why are you still throwing yourself at Logan? Lionel blurted out. I'm not throwing myself at him. Violet sounded a little anxious. He didn't know if it was because Violet was flustered by what Lionel had said, or because she was trying to pull away from him. She was a little out of breath, but Logan didn't move. He had to hear what Violet would say about him. What Violet usually said in front of him didn't count. He never knew if she was just sweet-talking him or not. Logan needed to hear what Violet really thought in her heart. Really, Violet, don't think that no one suspects what goes on between you two in Logan's home, Lionel said with some disgust. Since you said so, then there's no need for us to continue talking. Please, let me go. Violet's voice was cold, and she sounded deeply offended by Lionel's words. This made Logan quite satisfied. Her gentleness should be reserved only for him. Then what exactly is the relationship between the two of you? Lionel asked her again. That's none of your business, Violet yelled. What? Shame on you. Why are you so afraid that people will find out? Lionel questioned. I said it has nothing to do with you. Violet was breathless, clearly still trying to pull away. Have you no pride? Are you willing to settle for being nothing more than someone's lover and plaything, Violet? Lionel accused. Shut up! Violet's voice trembled. He is 10,000 times better than you. At least he will not betray me. Ha! He only treats you as a toy. What loyalty is there to talk about? Do you know how many women he has had behind your back? He is Logan Alexander, the CEO of Smith Group. He can have as many women as he wants. Will he be loyal to you? Stop dreaming, you little fool, Lionel shouted. Are you crazy? It was Violet's panicked voice, and then Logan heard footsteps coming towards him as if they were chasing after each other. Logan started to move to go help Violet, when someone suddenly rushed around the corner and stepped on the back of his foot. It didn't hurt, and a light fragrance entered his nose. It was so familiar. He grabbed the waist of the person in his arms. It was Violet. No wonder it didn't hurt. Violet didn't wear high heels. She had been chased by Lionel, right into Logan's arms. Logan smiled. Oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't watching where I was going. Violet tried to extract herself from Logan's arms as she looked back over her shoulder. She hadn't realized it was Logan who held her yet. Violet was flustered and a bit afraid. She hadn't expected Lionel to suddenly go crazy and want to kiss her. Luckily, she ran. However, when she went to move around the man she bumped into, she found that she remained tightly held in his arms. She could not escape. Let me go! Violet yelled. Had she run into a lecher? What's the hurry? It was a familiar man's voice that spoke. Violet's heart trembled as she looked up. It was Logan. Is this a lover's quarrel, or does Lionel just enjoy the chase? Logan calmly looked down at Violet. He could hear Lionel heading towards them. Why? Why are you here? Violet felt that she was saved, but at the same time she also felt that she was finished. Violet had met Lionel again, and Logan had even caught her. Logan was going to be furious. Violet subconsciously tightened her grip on Logan's sleeve. She had promised not to meet Lionel again, but he had called to talk to Garrett and then come straight to the hotel restaurant to see her. Lionel had followed her when she went to the restroom and had insisted on speaking to her, and then he tried to kiss her. Violet was held in Logan's arms, and her small fist was pressed against Logan's chest. She tried her best to maintain her balance and looked anxiously down the corridor. Lionel had chased after her, and she could hear him about to come around the corner. Violet gripped Logan harder and braced herself for the confrontation. Episode 250. Girlfriend. Lionel had chased Violet down the hall. He hadn't expected Violet to reject him as she had. When he had heard she was at the hotel's restaurant dining with Garrett and her coworkers, Lionel had immediately come to see her. But when he told her he wanted her back and tried to kiss her, she ran. As Lionel rounded the corner of the hotel's hallway, he saw Violet. She was standing with another man. The man had his arms wrapped around her. "Hey, you there! Who are you? Let her go!" Lionel shouted. Who was this man? Was he trying to take advantage of Violet? "Let go of my girlfriend," Lionel shouted angrily as he ran up to them. Logan had his head lowered, looking at Violet. His back was facing the corner of the corridor, and Lionel hadn't recognized him yet. Lionel could only see Violet's face. But she didn't look distressed. She looked relieved, and her face was full of love. At Lionel's shouted words, the man turned. It was Logan. "Girlfriend?" Logan's eyebrows rose at Lionel's description. Violet felt the hand on her waist tighten as Logan grew angry. Logan turned back to Violet, now seething. "Have I missed something? Since when did you become his girlfriend? I thought you were going to dinner with Jay and the others to discuss work. Or was that just a cover story so you could come and meet your boyfriend Lionel here?" Logan was very angry. Why was Violet here with her ex-boyfriend? Hadn't she promised Logan that she wouldn't speak to him again? I mean, sure, Logan had escorted his own ex, Elizabeth, to the hotel tonight, but that was totally different. He certainly hadn't expected Elizabeth to try to trap him tonight as she had. Whatever had or hadn't happened tonight in that hotel room wasn't Logan's fault. He'd been trying to let Elizabeth down gently, so Logan had agreed to help her one last time. But just as Logan was working to get rid of Elizabeth for good, what was Violet, his supposed woman, doing? Sneaking around with Lionel. Who would have thought that when Logan returned downstairs he would stumble right into Violet and Lionel's lovers' quarrel? Could this night get any worse? "Does your fiancée Chloe know that Violet is your girlfriend, Lionel?" "I'm going to assume not, or she'd be here trying to kill Violet again," Logan said coldly. "I'm not Lionel's girlfriend. I don't know why he called me that. I did come here tonight to dine with Jay and the others," Violet quickly explained. She stood up straighter and wiggled out of Logan's arms. Being so close to Logan's warm body was flustering Violet. Her heart rate had picked up, and she was having trouble breathing. Violet needed to separate herself from the man so she could think straight and defend herself. "Lionel arrived here while we were eating, and then cornered me when I went to the ladies' room alone." "Violet, why are you so afraid of him? Are you in love with Logan?" Lionel asked her, growing more agitated. He'd seen the look on Violet's face moments ago. "Please, stop. My private life has nothing to do with you, Lionel," Violet responded. She didn't want to have to answer Lionel's questions. Logan and she were in a contract. Even if Violet did have feelings for Logan, it wouldn't matter. She didn't have that right. "Violet, tell him what our relationship is." Logan looked at her coldly and pulled her back to his side, placing his arm around her shoulders. Violet felt a lot of pressure. Violet couldn't say that she and Logan had an agreement, that she was his mistress. It was too embarrassing to publicly admit. She didn't understand why Logan wanted her to say it. In fact, Violet misunderstood what Logan meant. He just wanted Violet to say Logan was her man, as she'd done at the hospital. But nervous and embarrassed, Violet didn't realize this. "See? She admits to nothing," Lionel said angrily. "Violet is a free woman. You have no right to order her about like one of your subordinates. She doesn't even work for you anymore," he blurted out. Logan was so furious he laughed. This Lionel had betrayed Violet 4 years ago, and now he wanted a do-over because he had changed his mind. Lionel was harassing and literally chasing Violet, but he dared to berate Logan. Logan, who had been helping Violet and who was the father of her children. This Lionel was a real piece of work. "Violet, is that you?" "Wait, is that my big brother? What are you doing here, Logan?" Garrett hurried over to them. Logan groaned. Great, his brother was here too. It seems it was impossible for Logan's night to get worse. Violet, you were gone so long I began to worry, so I came looking for you. Garrett had heard them arguing before he even rounded the corner of the hotel hallway. Garrett looked between the three of them, and then quickly glanced around. Fortunately, it was late now and there was no one else around. Otherwise, this scene would have drawn a crowd of curious onlookers. Lionel ignored Garrett and demanded of Violet, "You are so worried about what Logan thinks. Are you still saying that you are not a couple?" Logan answered for the distraught Violet. "She is my estate manager. Should I not be concerned about her well-being?" Logan remained unmoved. "Now, let's just all calm down. This must be some sort of misunderstanding. We were all just enjoying a friendly dinner." Garrett smiled and tried to smooth things over. He didn't expect Lionel to be so bold as to start attacking Violet. Garrett would have kept an eye on Lionel and not let him follow Violet if he had. Besides coveting the Kingston family's assets, Lionel apparently now wanted Violet as well. The man was obviously having second thoughts about abandoning Violet in the past, but Lionel needed to get it together. Harassing Violet and riling up Logan was not helping matters. But Lionel wanted an answer. "Estate manager. Do you really expect me to believe that you are just his employee, Violet?" Logan watched Violet closely. She still had not answered Lionel. Could it be that his grandmother was right? Logan didn't want to believe that Violet was deceitful like his mother. Violet had said that she wanted nothing to do with Lionel, so why didn't she just tell him that she was Logan's woman? And why was he still chasing after her? Did Lionel think that Violet had been lying and that she did still have feelings for him? "What's our relationship, Violet? Lionel is very concerned about you. And you..." Logan raised his eyebrows and looked at Garrett. "Why are you here too? Why are you everywhere?" he questioned. "I just came to have dinner with Violet to talk about some business. Logan, did you forget? Violet now works for me," Garrett told his brother. Garrett's tone was ambiguous, but he still paused and watched Logan's face with interest. Sure enough, his brother's face had grown as black as the bottom of a pot at Garrett's words. Ah, so it seemed that Logan had it quite bad for Violet. The scowl on his brother's face, and the fact that he tightened his grip around Violet's shoulders at Garrett's words, said it all. His brother did indeed have feelings for Violet. Garrett's plan to steal Violet from him would be all the sweeter if he succeeded, because Logan cared. He was looking forward to teaching his brother a lesson. Garrett looked away from Violet and back at Logan. "Violet, are you all right?" "She's fine," Logan told him with a scowl. Garrett just smiled and shrugged. Violet gently pulled Logan's sleeve. "Garrett is the one who brought us all out tonight. There are a lot of people here. Jay, the creative team, and some musicians. It really is a business dinner. Besides, I didn't know Lionel would come," Violet explained herself. "What would you have done if you knew?" Logan asked her quietly, ignoring the other men. "I wouldn't have come," she told him honestly. "Lionel, what happened? Why is Violet so upset with you?" Garrett turned on Lionel now, suspicious. "It was nothing, I just wanted to talk about the Kingston case. Who knew Logan would get the wrong idea and get angry?" Garrett looked up at Logan and smiled. "Lionel wanted to talk to me about something. He knew I was eating here. He was in a hurry to talk to me, so I asked him to come over. Violet had already left for the restaurant and didn't know. It was my fault. Did something happen that made people uncomfortable?" Garrett asked Logan. "You will have to ask Lionel about that," Logan told him coldly. Logan stroked Violet's hair and patted her shoulder. He was done talking to them. He signaled for her to go back to the restaurant to get her things so they could go home. "You won't make things difficult for me, right? Lionel?" "What happened?" Garrett asked Lionel, but he wouldn't help him clean up the mess. He could only blame his bad luck for bumping into Logan. "How did you come to bump into them, Logan? Where did you come from? A suite?" Garrett knew that just upstairs was the hotel's highest level suite area. Garrett looked at his brother suspiciously now. What was Logan doing here? Episode 251. Let it go, Lionel. Logan didn't care for the suspicious look Garrett was giving him. He had no intention of telling Garrett that he was at the hotel tonight because he had accompanied Elizabeth to the gala. Violet was still there, and it was none of his brother's business. Logan didn't answer his question, but instead turned to Violet and said something in a low voice as they prepared to leave. Garrett had expected his brother to give him a disdainful and condescending answer. What he had not expected was for Logan to not answer him at all. Interesting. Violet and I are leaving now, Logan told him coldly. Then he began to steer Violet back towards the hotel restaurant so they could get her things and go home. Violet, wait, I still have something to tell you. Seeing that Violet was leaving, Lionel became anxious. Once she left, he did not know when they would meet again. Lionel, I have nothing to say to you. I believe I already made myself very clear earlier. I hope we won't meet again. Violet was annoyed. She didn't have any feelings for Lionel anymore, and she just wanted him to leave her alone. Why can't we talk? Lionel asked. You answered your own question 4 years ago when you chose Chloe, Violet informed him, even though she felt the answer was obvious. So you will only acknowledge the Kingston family as your family when it comes to the inheritance, but not when your family needs you? Your family is badly battered right now, and you offer no help, or even sympathy. Are you proud of yourself, Violet? Or perhaps you suffer from a guilty conscience? Lionel sneered at her. He was deflecting to save face, but Violet didn't care enough to argue. There was no need. Their paths had diverged long ago. Violet did not need Lionel's understanding, nor did she want to continue arguing with him. It was just a waste of time. She was also not afraid of Lionel's suspicion. Violet had nothing to do with Chloe's attack or subsequent breakdown, and Lionel knew it. The Kingstons were free to try and pin it on her, but they would fail. Violet had the truth, the law, and Logan on her side. Not to mention all of LA had witnessed Chloe trying to pull Violet off that balcony. Don't forget that Chloe intended to hurt me. She is lucky that I just want the matter to be over. I could be seeking to have Chloe prosecuted and go after her for damages, Violet told him heatedly. She was growing increasingly irritated with Lionel. Lionel was stunned. He had never seen Violet act so aggressively. She was confident, hot, and tempting. Violet was thoroughly riled up now and continued, As for the inheritance, you can be sure that I will not drop my fight for what is rightfully mine. Grandfather left me control of the family, and I will not give it up until I have fulfilled his wishes. Miranda and Charles brought this fight on themselves, and now they will reap the consequences. One way or another, Violet knew she would definitely find evidence that the two of them had plotted against her grandfather and send them to prison. Lionel's face was full of pain. Violet, come back. Don't be deceived. Come back to the Kingston family. Our family will start anew. What's the point of staying by Logan's side? He's just using you as a tool to vent his desires, he blurted out. Enough. I will not allow you to talk about us like that. Logan was really angry now. Lionel was simply spouting nonsense. How shameless was Lionel to say that Logan was using Violet only to vent his desire. If it was purely to vent his desire, there were countless women who wanted to climb into Logan's bed. No matter what, he would always treat Violet and their children well. Logan would make sure they were protected. The only thing he could not give Violet was a title. He and Violet were not a couple. They both understood this. Watch what you say, Lionel, Logan told him with cold fury. I will not allow you to slander me or the mother of my children. You should not be criticizing others, but instead should be worrying about the consequences of your own dirty deeds. Vent your jealousy elsewhere. Logan's relationship with Violet was solely between them. He would not allow others to comment on it. We have done nothing dirty or wrong, Violet scolded Lionel, and then turning to Logan she clarified, and Lionel has no reason to be jealous. We are not together. We have not been together for 4 years, and I want nothing to do with him. He means nothing to me. Violet did not like Lionel pestering her, but she also did not like Logan's insinuation that he was jealous. Fine. It has nothing to do with you. Let's go home first. Then you can explain exactly what is going on between you two. Although Violet seemed sincere, Logan would not let her off the hook so easily. There is nothing to explain. I want nothing to do with him, and I did not ask him to meet me here tonight. How many times must I repeat myself to you? Violet had now forgotten about the unpleasant situation with Lionel. The impulse to get angry with Logan had overshadowed everything else. How dare he be suspicious of her? There was nothing to go home and talk about because she hadn't done anything wrong. Violet struggled out of Logan's arms and glared at him unhappily. She looked at the passive expression on Logan's arrogant face. She was so infuriated Violet wanted to hit him. So she did. Violet took her small fist and smacked him in the chest as hard as she could. Ouch! Violet grabbed her hand. The man must be made of granite, which made sense because he had a heart of stone. When Violet looked up to see Logan's reaction and saw him smiling at her amusement, she threw her hands up in frustration and stomped off. Violet could not be bothered with these 3 men anymore. Logan, Lionel, and Garrett, they could all go to hell. She hurried off to the restaurant to get her purse and prepared to go home. Logan turned to follow her, chuckling to himself. Lionel's face turned pale. He had never seen Violet so worked up, and it was because of Logan. This was not a fight, but foreplay. Logan and Violet might as well have been flirting with each other. A person would have to be blind not to see the sparks flying between them. Still, Lionel tried to spin things in his favor. Logan, Violet is deliberately trying to make me angry. She wants me to be jealous. Lionel followed after Logan. Lionel, I suggest you drop this whole matter. Or do you want to be the reason Smith Group no longer does business with the Kingston Group? Logan asked. You have always been clear that you keep public and private matters separate, Lionel replied. I'm sure I can make an exception in your case. Logan stopped and turned to Lionel. You need to let it go, Lionel. Perhaps you should talk to someone about your obsession with Violet. I'd be happy to have Corey send over some names of psychiatrists for your consideration, he suggested. How can you be so sure that Violet will not betray you? Lionel tried to taunt him. That's her choice to make. I cannot control her, Logan shrugged, then added. Besides, who knows what will happen in the future? After all, I'm sure you didn't expect this day to happen 4 years ago, he added. Don't think she won't use you, Logan. Violet is very good at using her feminine charm to achieve her goals. Lionel sneered at Logan in a warning. And yet, she has no desire to use her feminine charms on you. That must sting. But then, some men aren't even qualified to be used. Logan smiled at Lionel and then turned and walked away. Lionel was so angry that he smashed his fist on the wall. He wanted to shout at Logan's back, but was stopped by Garrett. Calm down. Logan's time will come. Let it go for now. There will be plenty of opportunities to deal with him in the future. Don't worry. Garrett slapped Lionel's shoulder. Violet had gone to get her things. Logan followed her with Garrett and Lionel trailing behind. When Violet and the men entered the restaurant's private dining room, Jay and the rest of the group ceased chatting and waved at them. You're finally back, Jay called out. I was beginning to wonder if I should send out a search party. But then every time someone left, they didn't come back, so I didn't know if it was safe. The group at the table laughed, but it was clear Violet and the men were far less amused. Episode 252. He kissed her. Violet returned to the hotel's restaurant to retrieve her things so that she and Logan could go home. Lionel and Garrett followed them, and the 4 of them were greeted by Jay. You've returned, and you've even brought Logan with you. What a rare guest. Quickly, come in and take a seat. Logan stood behind Violet at the door of the private dining room. At Jay's greeting, Logan nodded in response. I came by to see if Violet needed a ride home. I heard her first day of work went very well, Logan said. Regardless of whether Logan said it in his own name or as Violet's boss, Jay nodded repeatedly in agreement. Jay already had a good impression of Violet, and was impressed to see Logan looking out for her as well. Jay, I'm sorry I've been gone so long. I just happened to meet Logan in the hall, so I was delayed for a bit. It's been a long day, and if there's nothing else you need from me, I was hoping I could go home. Perhaps we can continue our discussion in the studio, Violet explained. As for the interlude with Lionel, Violet didn't mention it. Of course. Go home, get some rest, Violet. We will talk tomorrow. Jay glanced at Garrett, and then looked at Lionel's gloomy face. Jay wasn't stupid. It was clear something had gone on while the three of them had been out of the room. And where did Logan come from? Had he also been eating in the hotel? Or did he especially come to find Violet? All right, let's go. Logan took the lead and turned to leave. Violet quickly followed. She was still irritated that Logan was suspicious of her. As far as she was concerned, she had done nothing wrong. Logan just didn't trust her. Why did he always want her to apologize to him? It was really childish. To her, his mood right now was nothing more than a temper tantrum over nothing. Violet had to practically run to keep up with him. Logan's legs were much longer than hers, and when the man took one step, she had to take 2 or 3 to keep up. Normally, she found Logan's long legs appealing, but right now, they just made Violet angry. Logan, slow down. Wait for me. Her face had started to flush from exertion. She was a little breathless. Plus, all the arguing had left Violet's throat a little dry. It almost made Logan feel sorry for her. Almost. Instead, Logan pulled at his tie to loosen it and ignored her. He continued to walk towards the parking lot, not adjusting his pace. Logan felt that since discovering he had children, he'd grown softer. He was not in the mood to pamper Violet when she acted spoiled like she was right now. But he also couldn't stay angry at her. Originally, Logan had planned to give her a good scolding for what had happened today, or perhaps he would have ignored Violet for a few days and let her think about what she had done wrong. But Logan found he was too restless for all that. He didn't know what Elizabeth and Philly were playing at, and seeing Violet and Lionel together had made him very uncomfortable. Wait for me! Why are you angry? Really? Logan, stop! Violet wanted to shout, but was too out of breath as she jogged behind Logan to keep up. Luckily, Violet didn't wear high heels, otherwise she probably would have tripped and sprained her ankle at this rate. Logan was really a cold and heartless man, Violet thought angrily. Mike was waiting in the car. Logan regretted not having him follow him earlier. If Mike had been there, Logan would not have so easily fallen into someone else's trap. However, he kept these thoughts to himself. He opened the car door and pushed Violet in. What are you doing? Violet huffed as she half fell and was half shoved by Logan into the car. The man was so rude. She sat up and straightened her clothes and waited for Logan to say something. However, the man didn't even look at her. In the confined space of the car, Violet caught a faint whiff of alcohol. He should not have been drinking. Why was he so angry? Did he really care so much about what others thought? She hadn't even done anything. He was just being a control freak, Violet thought in irritation. And most annoying of all, Violet inexplicably felt a little guilty. She didn't know why. She hadn't done anything wrong. However, the more guilty Violet felt, the more she would bluff. She looked at Logan and pouted. My feet have been ground into a pulp. What is your problem? Why didn't you wait for me? Don't tell me you really think that I came here to hook up with Lionel. Mike quickly raised the partition in the town car and drove. He didn't think he should hear this. Logan looked at Violet, and before she even knew what was happening, he had pulled her into his lap and was kissing her. He kissed her until she was breathless and had no strength left to fight with him. Logan kissed Violet to shut her up. He kissed her because there were things he couldn't say. He kissed her to assure himself she was his woman, and he kissed her to remind her that he was her man. He kissed her to wipe Lionel, Garrett, and any other man out of her mind, and he kissed her to forget what Elizabeth had done tonight. He kissed her because he wanted to, but mostly, he kissed her because he needed to. Logan didn't break their kiss until they pulled into his driveway. Violet's face was flushed red, and she didn't even dare to look at Logan. She felt that he was acting a little unusual tonight. Violet originally had wanted to ask him why he was in the hotel, but now she didn't dare to ask. When they pulled up in front of the house and got out of the car, Logan held her neck and warned her, "The next time I see you and Lionel together, I won't let you get off so easily." He kissed her hard again and then let her go into the house. Violet found that Logan really liked kissing. He kissed her all the time. Violet didn't think there was a room left in the house that he hadn't kissed her in, and Violet couldn't say it bothered her. She felt a bit melancholy when she remembered that someday their contract would end. Violet couldn't help the wave of disappointment and frustration that passed through her for a moment. When they walked in, Zoe and Lee were still up. Zoe asked if they wanted to have a midnight snack. Logan shook his head no and walked upstairs without saying anything. He was clearly still upset. Violet quickly told them not to worry about it and go to bed. She said she would take care of him. Zoe and Lee looked up the stairs with some worry, but they did as Violet asked and headed to bed. "What do you think happened to Mr. Alexander today? He seems pretty upset," Zoe asked Lee quietly. "I don't know. Miss Kingston said to let her handle it, but I don't know if that's going to work. He might be upset with her." Lee curled her lips. Her attitude towards Violet had always been reserved. "Anyway, we can't do anything about it. Go to bed. Tomorrow morning, get up early and prepare breakfast. Make Mr. Alexander's favorites," Lee advised Zoe before they retired to their rooms. But the next day, Logan didn't get up to eat breakfast. He even shocked Corey when he called to tell him he wasn't coming into the office. Frankly, Logan was over it. For once, he wanted to be willful and do what he wanted to do, not what he was expected to do. He was still angry with Violet, and he hadn't slept well. The last thing he felt like doing was working. After filling Corey in on what had happened with Elizabeth, he asked him to secretly investigate. Logan didn't hesitate to tell Corey. He knew he could trust him. Last night after showering, Logan had gone to bed, expecting Violet to join him. He'd waited, but when she still hadn't appeared, he'd gone looking for her. He'd been shocked when he'd discovered that Violet had gone into her own bedroom to sleep. He was the one that was supposed to be mad at her. Not wanting to give Violet the satisfaction of knowing he'd come looking for her, Logan had quietly returned to his bedroom, where he proceeded to toss and turn all night. Episode 253. Dreaming of Logan. Logan tossed and turned all night. After calling Corey to tell him he wasn't coming into work today, Logan lay in bed and continued to stew. Violet was angry at him and had gone to sleep in her own room, without even saying anything to him or asking Logan's permission. He felt more and more that Violet was out of control. Garrett and Lionel were bad influences on her. They had a contract, damn it. He had been holding it in all night, but now Logan threw off the covers and stormed down the hall to Violet's bedroom. He flung open her door and flipped on the light. She was asleep. Logan grew even angrier when he realized that while he'd been up all night, Violet had been sleeping soundly. The woman didn't seem to be worried at all. She didn't even take yesterday's incident to heart. Logan was furious. He stomped over and stood in front of Violet's bed when Logan kicked the bed frame to wake her up. The sleeping Violet felt the bed shake, and for a moment she wondered if Los Angeles was having an earthquake. Rising up on her elbows, she saw Logan standing at the foot of her bed. His face was cold and arrogant, and he looked furious. Nope, not an earthquake, just Hurricane Logan on a rampage. Violet flopped back down on the bed. "Can I help you?" she asked him through a yawn. "What do you think you're doing?" Logan asked her angrily, hands on his hips. Sleeping?" Violet replied, stifling yet another yawn with her fist. Logan's face darkened further. Apparently that was the wrong answer. "Logan, what's wrong now?" Violet asked, exasperated. She thought he was supposed to be angry with her. He'd stormed off last night like he'd wanted to be left alone. Exhausted, Violet had gone to sleep in her own room. Violet felt that she really didn't understand Logan more and more. "Have you forgotten our agreement? You are supposed to sleep with me. This room is only for show," Logan lectured. "You only take the initiative to please me when it serves your own purposes. I've spoiled you too much. Where did your previous solicitous attitude towards me go?" "Anything else?" Violet sat up and fluffed her pillow behind her against the headboard. She was annoyed to death and tired. Despite what Logan thought, she hadn't slept well. She dreamt of her grandfather asking her what was taking so long for her to avenge him, until in her dream, grandfather had morphed into Lionel, who had started chasing her. Violet had run and run and run, and just when she'd felt Lionel was about to catch her, she tumbled into Logan's arms, and he'd kissed her. Logan had kissed her until she suddenly found herself sitting in her pajamas at her old desk at work, while Logan lectured her for cheating on him with Lionel. Just like Logan was lecturing her in his pajamas right now. Maybe dreams really do come true. As she thought about this, Violet smiled to herself in amusement. "Am I amusing you, Miss Kingston? Something funny you'd care to share?" Logan asked her with narrowed eyes. No, I was just thinking about a dream I had last night. It's not important," Violet told him. "No, please share. Perhaps you were dreaming of your lover, Lionel?" he asked suspiciously. "Well, not exactly." At Violet's hesitation in replying, Logan grew even more suspicious. "You were dreaming about him," he accused her, his eyes as cold as ice. Violet threw up her arms in frustration. "Oh, Logan, stop it. Lionel is not my lover. Yes, Lionel was in my dream, but because he was chasing me. I was running from him and couldn't get away. I ran and ran until I ran into your arms and you started kissing me. You saved me, but then you started lecturing me in my pajamas. And then I realized you were actually lecturing me in your pajamas right now, just like in my dream, which I thought was funny. Well, I mean, you weren't in my pajamas. I was wearing my pajamas. I think you were in a suit, not pajamas. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that Lionel is not my lover, or my man, or anything else. You are my lover, and my man, although right now I'd rather strangle you than be intimate with you." When Violet finished explaining with a huff, she looked up to see the expression on Logan's face had changed. He no longer looked angry. He looked satisfied. "You ran into my arms and I kissed you. Violet, were you dreaming about me?" Logan raised his eyebrows at her. "No, I was not dreaming about you. You were, just in my dream," Violet said, beginning to blush. Horrible man. Why had she been dreaming about Logan? Ever since she'd moved into his home, Violet felt that something was wrong with her. It was all Logan's fault. "Oh no, I distinctly remember you dreaming about me saving you. And kissing you," Logan said, a smile forming on his face. Men were so strange. Even if they were contracted lovers, they still had to feel special. Only Logan would be like this. Besides being super annoying, she couldn't help that she found him cute. Logan felt that he was special, so he felt better. Violet smiled sheepishly but said nothing. They stood and looked at each other for a long moment. She felt that Logan was different today. Through the morning sun, she seemed to see Logan's ears were a little red, and his eyes had grown more heated the longer he looked at her. She tried to suppress her shiver, but he noticed. "Are you cold?" Logan asked her. "No, I'm not cold," Violet replied honestly. "It's easy to catch a cold in winter. You should get back under the covers," he told her. But she didn't move. Logan looked at her seriously. "So you aren't still thinking about Lionel?" "No, I don't want to see him at all," Violet replied softly. "Really?" Logan's voice had grown rougher. Violet was also a little nervous. When she saw Logan approaching her bed, she pulled the covers up to her chin. Logan raised an eyebrow in amusement. "I said you should get back under the covers to stay warm, not to hide from me." "No, I just want to get up," she replied, peeking up at him standing by her bed. When he heard Violet say that she wanted to get up, Logan snorted and then laughed. "I think I said this room was just for decoration," he said. "Yes, you did. Sorry, I know I was wrong." Violet had indeed said that she wanted her own room when she moved in. Logan had agreed, but only if she promised not to sleep in it. "Do you even know how many times you've had to say those words to me?" Logan asked with a shake of his head, then yanked the covers out of her hands. He leaned over Violet, placing his hands on the headboard and caging her between his arms. It's time for you to go to work," Violet reminded him nervously. "I'm not going to work today," Logan replied with a grin. Logan spent the whole morning in Violet's bedroom. He got what he wanted, and he taught Violet a lesson. At noon, the two of them finally got up. They went downstairs to eat, and Zoe and Lee both heaved a sigh of relief. "Mr. Alexander, I received a message from Alex that your grandmother wants you to return to the old residence for your birthday meal this Friday," Lee told him. Logan wasn't sure if Violet remembered that his birthday was the same day as the children's. She hadn't said anything about it. Logan frowned. Did Violet not want them to celebrate their birthdays together? Episode 254, Birthday Invitation. Logan was wondering if Violet remembered his birthday or not. Actually, Violet did remember that Logan's birthday was coming up. It was the same day as Adam and Amy's birthday. With everything going on lately in her new job, Violet had just forgotten it was so soon. After hearing Lee tell Logan that his grandmother wanted him to come to a birthday dinner this Friday, Violet realized their birthdays were actually very soon. Violet thought Logan, Adam, and Amy should celebrate their birthday together. It would be an extra special occasion for the three of them, as it would be the first birthday they'd have together since discovering Logan was their father. She would need to go shopping. The twins would be easy to shop for. It was their father that would be hard. Violet wanted to give Logan a birthday present. But what do you give the man who has everything? Logan was a billionaire. Anything he wanted he could buy 100 times over. Plus, there was the fact that Logan was very particular and picky. Violet had no idea what kind of gift to give him. And now there was the added complication that Agnes wanted Logan to come to celebrate at the Alexander family's mansion. She figured Agnes was planning to include the children in the party, but Violet wasn't welcome in the mansion. In the past, Violet and the twins would always celebrate their birthdays with Noah and Haley. Violet wondered if there was a way to bring Adam and Amy out to celebrate their birthday. Would Logan be willing to ask Agnes? Noah and Haley could come to Logan's home, and they could have a birthday party here. Adam and Amy always wanted chocolate cake with white frosting. Would Logan like that kind too? If not, he could order another flavor of cake. Hello, Earth to Violet. Hello, ding, ding, ding. Violet started at the noise. She was still sitting at the dining room table with Logan finishing lunch. Violet had been so deep in thought she didn't hear Logan trying to talk to her, until Logan took his fork and knocked it on her plate, that is. Ding, ding, ding. Are you deaf? Logan asked her, banging her plate again, clearly irritated she was ignoring him. Honestly, this man. Earlier this morning he'd called her baby and sweetheart, when they were still in bed together. Now that he'd put clothes on, Logan was back to being his normally rude self. Violet rolled her eyes at him. I was just thinking about something. What did you say? I asked you what you were daydreaming about. Didn't you hear me? I repeated myself several times. Logan wondered if she'd been ignoring him on purpose. I don't have to tell you every thought I have. Violet wrinkled her nose at him. Now the man even wanted to control her thoughts. Logan was really overbearing. Feeling bold again, I see. Was your punishment this morning not sufficient? I'd be happy to return upstairs for a reminder lesson. Logan looked at her coldly, and was very satisfied to see Violet start blushing. Fine. I was thinking that the children's birthday was the same day as yours, and I was wondering how to celebrate it. She had no choice but to confess honestly, or else Logan wouldn't let it go. His words were shameful, but Violet knew that Logan would indeed make good on his threat. Oh, I see. Logan raised his eyebrows. What do you think? He asked. I just want to celebrate with the children, she told him honestly. You don't want to celebrate with me? Logan took a bite of chicken. Then he wiped the corner of his mouth with his napkin as he waited for her to reply. He looked at Violet seriously, obviously wanting to hear her answer. You will be celebrating at your grandmother's home, and I'm sure she's planning to include the twins. Violet gave a small shrug and looked down, while she picked at her own lunch with her fork. If you had been listening earlier, you would know that I said to come with me to the old residence for dinner this Friday, he told her. What? No, I'm not welcome there. Agnes has made that very clear. Violet firmly refused, shaking her head. She did not want to go somewhere she wasn't welcome. I will say it again. Logan felt that he was losing his patience. Why did Violet always have to argue with him? I can come home and pick you up. We can go together, he explained. Your grandmother doesn't like me, Violet told him, although why she had to remind Logan of this she couldn't understand. Then make her like you. Logan leaned forward and lowered his voice to say to Violet, just like those colleagues at Smith Group who didn't like you at first, but now do, he added. No, they still don't like me even now. Violet covered her face and closed her eyes in embarrassment. I think many people want you to return to Smith Group, Logan told her. No, I didn't win anyone over. They just decided that I have a few redeeming qualities, Violet said. Oh, is that so? Logan raised his eyebrows at her. Then why did Drake and Priya like you so much? I don't see them protecting others as they do you, he stated. You'll have to ask them. Violet was a little proud of herself, though. She had won the two assistants over. She tilted her head and looked at Logan with a small smile. The man snorted and stroked her cheek with his finger. Then let grandmother find out that you have good qualities too. If she wants to get angry, she can get angry with me. Just pretend that you don't hear it, he suggested. Do you really want me to go? Violet asked softly. She couldn't help the flutter inside that Logan seemed to really want her to go, even offering to protect her from Agnes. She just needed to hear him say it again. Of course. Logan rose and gave her a quick kiss on the top of the head. Now that that's settled, I need to change. Logan had made his decision, and that decision was final. There was no room for discussion. Violet thought about it and decided that after the celebration, Friday would be a good time to bring Adam and Amy home for the weekend to Logan's house. That thought cheered her up, and she rose to follow Logan upstairs. To show her gratitude, Violet took the initiative to help Logan prepare the clothes he was going to wear in the afternoon. She chose a dark blue suit with a light blue shirt and a silver pinstripe tie. All of Logan's clothes were custom-made and of the highest quality, and he dressed like the titan of business he was. He would need cufflinks to go with his shirt. She knew a pair that would match perfectly. She'd put them away when she'd be straightening up. Violet went to the dresser drawer where she had seen the cufflinks. Rummaging around in the drawer, she saw a flash of pale pink amidst the grays, blues, and browns in the drawer. That touch of pink was familiar to Violet. It was a crystal hair clip, and it did not look cheap. Although it was very old, the pink crystal on top of it still shone brightly in the sunlight. Violet remembered seeing it before. "What are you doing? What's taking so long?" Logan was impatient. He came into the closet wearing just his boxer briefs. He did not have any fat on his body. His shoulders were wide, and his butt was triangular. Violet didn't know where to put her eyes, so she just lowered her head. But then she bumped her elbow on the dresser and accidentally tipped the contents of the drawer onto the floor. "Sorry," Violet said apologetically. Logan sighed, but said nothing, his expression a mix of helplessness and indulgence as he started to put on his pants. Violet carefully picked up the contents of the drawer. Logan looked over and his expression instantly changed. "Stop! Don't touch my things!" Violet was in shock. What was wrong with Logan? He'd never spoken to her in such a violent tone before. "I was just cleaning up." Violet stood up as if she'd done something wrong. Her face was a little pale. "It doesn't matter if it's anything else, but you're not allowed to touch this." Logan was inexplicably very nervous. His eyes changed. He walked straight to Violet's side and took the crystal hair clip from her hand. He then raised it in front of Violet. "This, you are not allowed to move," he announced. "But is this for a girl?" Violet was very confused. Why was Logan so upset over a hair clip? Episode 255. Don't touch. Violet had been startled by Logan's reaction to her touching the hair clip she'd found in his dresser drawer. The hair clip obviously didn't belong to Logan. It was for a young girl. He was not close to his mother or sister, so she knew it didn't belong to one of them. Logan was not the sentimental type, but given his extreme reaction a moment ago, Violet knew that the girl it belonged to must be very special to him. "Yes, it belongs to a girl, but you're not allowed to touch it. This is very important to me. You can move anything else in this room, just not this." He held the hair clip in his hand and waved it. He carefully put it back in the drawer inside a small box. "It seems very precious to you. Can I ask who it belongs to?" Violet was very curious. She'd never seen Logan care so much about anything. He looked so nervous just now, as if Violet might run off with his treasure. Violet felt a little uncomfortable. Was this hair clip that important? "I also want to know who it belongs to. I carefully keep it and wait for someone to claim it one day. Her appearance will make me believe that my past experience is not a dream." Logan took a deep breath, leaned against the wall of the closet and pursed his lips. Then he slowly started to put the rest of his clothes on. Violet was no longer in the mood to look at his beautiful body. She was also completely distracted by the hair clip. Experience? Dream? I don't understand. Violet was confused by what Logan was saying. She was actually somewhat familiar with the hair clip. She just wanted to ask whose it was so she could know its origin. It could also explain where this inexplicable familiarity came from. But it was obvious that Logan could not explain it either. Or perhaps he didn't want to say anything more to her. "This is my own matter. Just remember not to touch it in the future. It's one of a kind," he told her. There would never be such a hair clip again, Logan thought gloomily. However, after so many years and with all his resources, Logan still had not been able to find its owner. Could it be that he would never have the chance to see the girl again in this lifetime? One of a kind? I don't think so, Violet thought to herself. As long as she was able to one day return to the Kingston family mansion, and as long as Miranda had never discovered her grandfather's secret room, then Violet would be able to find a few pairs that were exactly like this one. They were all personally made by her mother Dahlia, using a high-grade crystal. Of course, the clips remaining would not be exactly the same. Her mother had mainly made hair clips to be worn by adult women, not girls, which was why Violet had failed to recognize the hair clip as one her mother had made the first time she came across it. Violet wanted to tell Logan about her mother's clips, but given his strange reaction, perhaps it was best that she should not mention them right now. Violet decided to wait until she was sure Miranda hadn't taken them out of the secret room, and if they were still there, she'd tell Logan then. "Why don't you know who it belongs to?" Violet asked. "It has nothing to do with you. Just drop it," he replied. "I was just curious," Violet told him. She was a little put out at his secrecy. It's not like he didn't try to know everything about her. "Have you forgotten something important?" Logan asked. "What are you talking about?" Violet looked at him. Logan was tucking his shirt into his pants. He had long legs, and his body was as good as any athlete. Violet stepped back in embarrassment and cursed herself for looking. "I think your attitude is quite bad. I thought we outlined behavior guidelines quite clearly in the manual I gave you." Logan looked in the mirror and saw Violet's face fall. She didn't dare to ask any more questions. He was satisfied she dropped the subject now, so he didn't say anything more. She curled her lips but remained silent. Violet thought it was Logan's attitude that needed improving, but she kept that thought to herself. She didn't want to make him angry again. She helped Logan put on his clothes. Peeking up at him, Violet saw his face wore its usual mask of cold arrogance, the nervous unease from earlier, now gone. Silently, she pulled his jacket off the hanger and handed it to him, then picked up his tie. Knowing Violet was too short to reach his neck, Logan bent down slightly so that she could tie it for him, giving her a small smile when he did so. Violet sighed inside and decided to let it go. It had been an innocent mistake, but she would have to remember to be more careful around his things. To be fair to him, if she were to find him seemingly going through her own things, she'd probably be upset too. They were quite familiar with each other now, but Logan was entitled to his privacy, even though her curiosity was killing her. Who exactly did the hair clip belong to? Violet had a feeling there was a significant story behind it. Why else would Logan care about it so much? Did Elizabeth know? She had been with Logan for 4 years. Violet didn't think so, but decided that if their paths crossed again, she'd test her out. Rodeo Drive was always crowded on the weekend. The famous row of high-end stores in Beverly Hills attracted both those who could afford to shop there and the tourists who only wished they could. Anna and her companions were among the group that could afford to shop there. They had been filming advertising videos for a new brand with Elizabeth today. After work, Elizabeth had invited Anna and Anna's good friend Mina to go shopping with her. Actually, Elizabeth and Anna were only casual acquaintances, but Elizabeth was in a hurry to enter the inner circle of the Alexander family. Elizabeth had decided the best person to start with was Logan's younger sister. "Thank you both for your hard work today. Do you want to grab a coffee first?" "My treat," Elizabeth asked the two of them. "No need. Let's go shopping first. Otherwise, all the best new items will be gone," Anna told her. They entered a large corner shop. "The Alexander family owns this brand. You can choose whatever you want," Anna offered them. Mina squealed and headed to the closest rack. Elizabeth flattered Anna. "Your big brother must love you very much to spoil you so much." "Oh, I don't know about that. Logan's just so rich. He won't even notice another charge on the family's black card," Anna told her with a shrug as she flipped through some maxi dresses. Anna didn't add aloud that Logan generally didn't pay much attention to anything Anna did, let alone what she bought. Her grandmother would notice the shopping bags and frown, of course. Agnes thought Anna only knew how to shop and dress up. She didn't believe Anna had a real job. That's why Anna preferred Garrett's grandma, Sarah, who was always much more supportive of Anna. Anna hadn't seen Garrett recently. Initially, Anna had been very depressed. He would not pick up his phone at work or answer any of Anna's texts. She really did not know what Garrett was so busy with. She'd heard the rumors about him and Elizabeth. Anna looked at Elizabeth, who was trying on some sunglasses nearby. Was she really involved with Garrett? Didn't seem like it to Anna. Elizabeth hadn't mentioned him all day. So, what's her deal? Mina asked Anna while nudging her chin to indicate Elizabeth. I thought you said she was involved with your big brother, but I've heard rumors she might be into Garrett now, she added. Shh, she'll hear you, Mina, Anna scolded her friend as she pulled her further away from where Elizabeth stood at the accessories case. Pretending to admire some boots, Anna whispered to Mina under her breath. I was surprised when she invited us to go shopping today, but I feel kind of sorry for her. I mean, you've seen the news, Mina. It can't be easy having the last name Kingston right now. Anna watched Elizabeth sympathetically as she wandered giddily over to the purse display.